Let me start by asking a question. Do you think it's important for children to learn to write? It seems obvious. On the other hand, most people do not grow up to become professional writers or professional novelists or journalists. So if people aren't going to become professional writers, why do we need to teach them to write? Now, of course, there's many answers to this. We use writing in our everyday life. Writing helps us think about things in new ways and understand the world in new ways. So we don't learn to write just because we become professional writers, but because it's useful to us in all aspects of our life and ways that we see the world. In my presentation today, I want to make the argument that we should see computer programming or coding in exactly the same way. It's certainly true that most people will not grow up to become professional programmers or professional computer scientists, the same way that most people do not grow up to become professional writers. But the same way that writing can be useful to everybody in all aspects of life, I think the same can be true for computer programming or coding. The coding isn't just something that can be a pathway to job and career, although of course it can be very good for that. That there's a lot of statistics showing that the demand for computer programmers will be much greater than the supply, so there are good career opportunities. But that's not the main point that I want to talk about today. I want to try to convince you that coding is something that can be useful in everybody's life, the same way that writing is. That coding can be useful in practical ways, and also in helping all of us be able to organize our ideas and to see the world in new ways. It's sometimes said that we don't just learn to write, we write to learn. That by learning to write, we also are able to learn many other things. That as we write, we see the world in new ways, we learn in new ways. And I believe that we should not just learn to code, but code to learn. The one reason it's important to learn to code is not because of the job possibilities, but because coding enables us to learn new things and to see the world in new ways. Now, when I think about this, I see coding as providing people with the opportunity to really be fluent with new technologies, to really be able to express ourselves with new technologies. And actually, this is different than the way that most people today use computers. Because when I talk about fluency with new technologies, some people might argue, well, but most young children already have a fluency with the technology. Many people have heard the phrase digital natives. They say children today are digital natives. They already know to do many things with new technology. And of course, it's true that young people, many young people, are comfortable with new technologies, and they can do a lot of things with new technologies. But most of the time, many young people are there browsing and chatting and playing games. They interact with applications, but they are not designing, creating, and expressing themselves with technologies. And for me, I feel that if we really want people to be fluent with technologies, to be able to express themselves with technologies, that's when you really need to be able to program with new technologies, to be able to code. So I think I'll be arguing today on the importance of fluency with technology. It's not enough to be able to use technologies or interact with technologies, but in today's society, to be a full participant, you really need to have a fluency. It's not enough like when I come to Brazil, I know a little bit of Portuguese to be able to read a street sign, to be able to read a menu, but I'm not fluent, so I cannot really participate in society. And I think it's the same thing with computers. It's not enough just to be able to interact with the computer. You need a fluency to be able to express yourself, to get your ideas out to the world. I think in these ideas, I've always been very inspired and influenced by the great Brazilian educator, Paulo Freire, who made a lot of the same arguments about reading and writing, the importance of being able to read the world and write the world, of to be a full and active participant in society, you needed to be able to read and write and participate actively through your reading and writing. It's not just a matter of being able to read and write in a practical way, but to be able to be a full participant, to develop a voice in society, to be able to be a full participant in society. And in my mind, to be able to write the world today in today's society with today's technology means learning to code. I want to try to discuss these ideas by telling you a few stories that I've observed over the last few years. So I've organized my talk around 6 stories. And each of these stories talks about ways that young people have learned to express themselves and engage with the world through the ability of coding. I'll start with my first story. And the first story took place a few years ago in the month of May. And I know it was the month of May because the story starts the day before Mother's Day. And in the United States, Mother's Day is in the middle of May. Is there a Mother's Day here in Brazil? Is it also in May? Okay. So this happened, it was the day before Mother's Day. And I suddenly realized that the next day was Mother's Day, and I had not gotten any type of gift for my mother. So I started thinking, what will I do for my mother for Mother's Day? And I thought, well, maybe I could make my mother an interactive Mother's Day card using the new Scratch software that my research group has been developing. So Scratch is a programming language that allows you to create your own interactive stories and games and animations and share your creations online. So I thought maybe I could use Scratch to make an interactive Mother's Day card for my mother. Before starting, I decided to look on this online Scratch community to see if anybody else had made a Mother's Day card. So in the search box, I typed in Mother's Day to see if there were any other Mother's Day projects. And to my surprise, there was a long list of Mother's Day projects in the Scratch community. Many of them had been made in the past 24 hours by procrastinators like myself. So I decided to look at some of these projects. So I'll show you a few of the projects that I saw. So this is a simple animation with a cat and who's giving a special Mother's Day greeting to the cat's mother, and even offers a replay at the end. It's always very considerate. So this was one way that a child, I think this was made by a 10-year-old girl who has made this as a Mother's Day card. The next example is an interactive Mother's Day card, whereas when you move the mouse, it changes the letters into words. And it changes Happy Mom Day into I love you and care for you, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. So it's a way the mother could interact with the Mother's Day card. It ends with a nice I love you. The last example is a story that someone created about how they came to make their Mother's Day card. So it says, press the space key to start. It says, hey, this morning someone told me it was Mother's Day. I Googled and found out it was true. Now I have something to say to you. I love you so much. This much. And ends with a picture of the family. So when I saw these examples, I was very happy to see these examples because I think these examples capture part of what we were hoping to see when we developed the Scratch programming language. Because I think these children are really becoming fluent with the new technology. They were able to use the technology to express ideas that were meaningful to them, that were personal to them. They really were able to share what they were thinking with someone else, which is part of what writing and communication is about.